Today we are going to celebrate and pay tribute to Cedric Benson, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today we're going to pay tribute to celebrate Cedric Benson, who died tragically on Sunday afternoon in a motorcycle accident. Benson was 36, which is sobering to me because I'm 32. And I'm approaching this, one, as a fan of Oklahoma, and two, as a respectful enemy of my enemy. Because I was taught to fear 4 football players from the University of Texas, and only one of them was a quarterback. Vince Young, of course, for what he did in 2005, but also because he could will anybody into victory. I mean, you could throw Colt McCoy into that conversation because of his winning tradition at Texas. But as a kid, those weren't the guys, right? I grew up mostly with Vince Young and Colt McCoy, so they don't really ring out the same to me. They're dudes who happen to be really great at playing football. And it's odd how sometimes the guys that you grew up watching are not the guys you grew up with, and you deify the guys that you grew up watching and not the guys you grew up with because, well, they're just dudes. And many times you've seen them in unflattering circumstances, so the shine kind of wears off. But Priest Holmes, and then Ricky Williams, and then Cedric Benson might be 3 of the best tailbacks to ever follow each other at one school in history. And there's a good argument for Cedric Benson being the second best of all 3 of those guys, all things considered, pro careers as well. We know that Ricky Williams is probably the greatest Texas football player of all time. But to show you how old I am, he played his first year at Texas when Texas was still in the Southwestern Conference. But Cedric Benson was the first guy for which I followed through recruiting. I knew about him in high school. And it wasn't so much that you got to watch him because it wasn't as readily available as watching some of the kiddos is today. And I follow it differently because I'm covering it. I know them. I know their parents. And I can recognize that they are preternatural at what they do. But it was different being a fan of a dude that was just a couple of years older than I was. And to put it in perspective how good Cedric Benson was. One, terrified of Cedric Benson in 2003. Which could arguably be the best Oklahoma football team ever assembled, to say nothing of the defense. And how it all ended is how it all ended. But on paper, you love that team. And still, you would watch Cedric Benson and go, oh my God, what's he going to do now? And I want to put this in perspective for some of the kids that are younger than me, because the stats help put some context to this, even if they don't tell the whole story. So I'm going to rattle off a few of these to try to round out just how good Cedric Benson was in high school and at the University of Texas. So to start, look, man, Mike, I'm looking at these stats and they're still stupid. They're stupid. All right. He led his Midland Lee team out of high school to 3 consecutive state championships and rushed for a total of 15 touchdowns in 3 state championship games, which is ridiculous. And then rushed for more than 1,900 yards in only 9 games as a senior. He rushed for over 3,500 yards with 51 touchdowns. As a junior, he led his team to an undefeated state championship and a national championship. And then he was the first high school football player ever to grace the cover of Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine, which is a huge deal. Usually that goes to like Sam Ehlinger. That goes to a guy that's about to win the Heisman. That year, it went to Cedric Benson because he was just that good. And he followed it up with a phenomenal record-setting freshman season at Texas. Look, Benson rushed for had 223 rushing attempts, which are still the most by any Texas freshman at tailback. Had 12 rushing touchdowns, which has been tied by Cody Johnson in 2008, and broke the freshman record for rushing yards in the game with 213 against Kansas. Now, that record has since been exceeded by Chris Warren III, who we all thought was going to be good, but basically his career went not unlike Benson's did at the next level. But I'm digressing here. Benson's 2001 yardage total is a Texas freshman record that still stands as the best debut ever for a Longhorn. And behind only Ricky Williams in Texas football lore at the running back position, Benson rushed for 5,500 yards, 64 touchdowns, and managed 25 games of 100 or more yards in rushing. This is over 49 games. Dude had over 1,100 rushing attempts in 2004, which was the best season he ever had at Texas, and arguably the best season he ever had in his entire football career. He finished with 1,834 yards, which is number 4 for the single season rushing yardage record. 19 touchdowns, which were 4th best in school history. And my goodness, 4 years of 1,000-yard rushing seasons, most rushing attempts in school history, second behind Ricky Williams in TDs. Benson was that dude. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. He could make you miss, but more than that, he could truck you. And I got to watch him at a time when you could compare him to what was going on at Oklahoma with Adrian Peterson. And then you looked around the Big 12, and at the time, you had Cedric Benson, you had Darren Sproles at Kansas State, you had Adrian Peterson at Oklahoma. You had great tailbacks, in particular, coming out of the Big 12 back when it was still, hey, we're going to run I formation, we're going to run single back, we're going to line up with 2 tight ends, and we're going to bust you in the mouth. Because nothing crystallizes that era of football for me more than watching Bob Stoops go away from the air raid to an I formation set because he had Adrian Peterson. And while Adrian Peterson might be the best tailback ever up there with Barry Sanders and Jim Brown in college, he was also surrounded by just phenomenal athletes across the conference and across the country. Just that good, just that awesome, and I really wanted Cedric Benson to have a much more meaningful NFL career, but it was what it was, and I wanted to know that, he's going to live to old age, and we were going to hear stories that he was going to tell when he was 50, 60 years old, and not just be the kind of kid that was compared to Earl Campbell back in the day or Ricky Williams back in the day, but that he would create a new legacy for himself, maybe as a coach, maybe as a business owner, who knows. But to know that he passed at 36 riding a motorcycle also puts in perspective my life, because I laid my motorcycle down on a highway when I was 17. And if I hadn't have been wearing a full face mask helmet, probably not making YouTube videos at all. Don't do anything past 17. I have to count my blessings because those 15 years have been meaningful and they've been awesome. And I hope that everybody can just do whatever it is you do to say, hey, Cedric Benson gave us great football. For what I understand, he was a great human being. And we can all just send our condolences to his family and his friends. And I'm sure the University of Texas. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.